Hey everyone, there's a little trick I've been wanting to share for a while, and it involves a charging cable. More specifically than that, and most often, the iPhone charging cable. Now I'm pretty sure most people who have experienced using an iPhone can say confidently that they have one charger lying around their house that looks a lot like this one here. You can see it's obviously come to the end of its lifetime. When you use them for a while, they always get all frayed at the end and you'll end up like throwing them away. What if I told you that I actually have a way to fix chargers that look like this? And no, I'm not going to tell you to wrap it up with thread or tape. That's going to fall off within 2 weeks. Now this is a really easy fix and almost anyone can do it. Actually pretty much anyone could do it. It only takes 3 things, and 2 of them you probably already have lying around your house. That first thing is a pair of scissors. Pretty simple. Everyone's probably got one. If you don't, why don't you? Go pick one up right now. Second thing is a lighter. Any lighter will work. And the last item, you can pick this up at like just about any hardware store, typically under $5, which is a lot less than what you'd pay to replace your charger. It's called heat shrink tubing. I'll put some prices on the screen. You can tend to find it for under $5 at most hardware stores. Now this stuff comes in a spool. You actually kind of pull it out from the side like that, and it's basically just a rubber tube. So what you want to do to begin this repair is identify how far along the cable the broken spot is. So in my case, it's right about here. Get a piece of the heat shrink tubing and cut it off. I'm actually gonna be safe and cut it off a little bit further. Got about 2 inches or so. You can really get however much you want, but enough to cover up that spot. And I made sure to get heat shrink tubing that was just a big enough gauge that I could fit it right over the iPhone cable. I think it says it's a 1/4 inch gauge. It's a tight squeeze, but that's what we want. Just feed it on over the cable. And eventually you should see it come up out the top. I love this stuff heated up in my drawer because it's harder than I remember. This iPhone cable was cracked at the end and started separating, so I think it's putting more tension than the last one did. Now I can say confidently that this works. I've done it many times. So I'm having a little trouble getting it over the top of this cable because the cable is a little wide because it started breaking at the end. So here's another thing that you might need. A little pair of pliers. Be very gentle because you don't want to damage the contacts. But there we go. You may have to use a pair of pliers on yours. Just keep that in mind. Now the reason I was having trouble sliding the heat shrink over the top was because of this crack here. See, it was a little bit wider at the end, so it was making it hard to shove it on. So I ended up having to use some pliers to pull it the rest of the way. In the past I haven't had to do that, but if you have a crack like that, keep in mind you may need pliers. If you don't want to go through the hassle of using pliers, just buy a slightly larger gauge of heat shrink. In most cases, I would start shrinking it here, but since this is cracked, I'm gonna scoot it forward. Not all the way up to the metal part, just so that this can have some room to fit into my phone case, but we're gonna use the little tip of that to really reinforce the edge where it's cracked. This is the fun part, because this is where the shrinking comes into play, and we get to use fire. Be safe. So in order to shrink this on here, basically just hold the lighter underneath it and move it back and forth, and don't hold it in one place for too long. As you can see, I kind of just do light strokes of it, because you don't want to heat up the cable too much, obviously, and you don't want to burn yourself. It might take a minute. That's better than getting hurt, and that's better than losing your cable. And you can see why they call it heat shrink tubing, as it conforms to the shape of the wire. Alright, I think that's as good as it's gonna get. Now I'm just gonna let it cool down for a minute, and then is good as new. Well, I have a couple more of these to do, then I'm gonna sit back and let my devices charge. I realized that most of that shot was out of focus, so here's a better close-up for those who need it. So the next time you think about throwing away some of your broken chargers, just remember, with some heat shrink tubing and a lighter, you can fix it. And these two items together is less than you'd pay for a new charger in the first place. So I think you can see what you'd probably want to do in this scenario. Alrighty everyone, I hope this helped you out. Be sure to click around on my other content, subscribe to the channel, and hope you enjoy your day. Peace.